In times of conflict, the true cost goes far beyond the battlefield. It hits people where it hurts most: their daily survival. Millions around the world are now struggling to afford basic necessities like food, fuel, and shelter as prices soar and incomes shrink. Supply chains break down, jobs disappear, and inflation rises rapidly, turning everyday life into a constant financial challenge. This growing crisis is not just about economics. It's about real families facing impossible choices just to get by. Today, we will talk about why millions are struggling to afford basics during conflict. So before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. Introduction. When conflict becomes an economic crisis, war and conflict are often seen through the lens of politics, borders, and military action. But their most widespread impact is economic, and it reaches far beyond the battlefield. In regions affected by conflict, and even in countries far away, millions of people begin to struggle with something very basic: affording daily essentials like food, clean water, fuel, and shelter. This is not just because incomes fall, but because prices rise faster than wages can adjust. Conflicts disrupt trade routes, damage infrastructure, and create uncertainty in global markets, leading to inflation that hits ordinary households first and hardest. As global supply chains tighten and energy costs surge, everyday necessities become increasingly expensive and out of reach for vulnerable populations. 2. Disrupted supply chains and broken trade routes. One of the most immediate reasons people struggle to afford basics during conflict is the breakdown of supply chains. Modern economies rely on a highly interconnected system where food, fuel, and goods are transported across countries through shipping routes, highways, and ports. When conflict erupts, especially in strategic regions, these routes become unsafe or blocked. Ships are rerouted, deliveries are delayed, and transport insurance costs rise sharply. According to global food security analysis, disruptions in key maritime corridors can delay essential goods and increase logistics costs significantly, which eventually reaches consumers in the form of higher prices. Even short-term disruptions create bottlenecks that reduce availability in local markets, leading to shortages of everyday goods and price spikes in basic commodities like rice, wheat, and cooking oil. 3. Rising fuel and energy prices. Driving inflation. Energy is the foundation of modern economic systems, and conflicts often trigger sharp increases in oil and fuel prices. When oil supply routes are threatened or production is disrupted, global energy markets react immediately. Fuel is required not only for transportation, but also for farming, manufacturing, and electricity generation. As fuel prices rise, the cost of producing and delivering goods also increases. This creates a ripple effect across the entire economy. Recent reports show that conflicts in energy-rich or strategically located regions can increase inflation pressures globally, raising prices for groceries, transportation, and utilities. For ordinary households, this means higher costs for commuting, cooking gas, and food transport, all of which are essential to daily survival. 4. Food price inflation and agricultural pressure. Food is one of the first sectors to feel the impact of conflict-driven inflation. Fertilizer shortages, fuel price increases, and disrupted transportation all contribute to rising food prices. Farmers face higher costs for production, while consumers face reduced availability and higher retail prices. In many conflict-affected regions, people must work significantly longer hours just to afford a basic food basket, with some populations needing more than a week of work to cover essential nutrition needs. In extreme cases, droughts, displacement, and war overlap, making agriculture nearly impossible. This combination leads to severe food insecurity, especially in low-income countries where people already spend a large share of their income on food. 5. Loss of jobs and household income instability. Conflicts do not only increase prices, they also reduce people's ability to earn money. Businesses shut down, supply chains break, and investment declines. In conflict zones, unemployment can rise dramatically as industries collapse or relocate. Even in nearby countries, economic uncertainty reduces hiring and slows down growth. Many households lose their primary source of income while still facing rising costs for essentials. This double pressure, falling income and rising prices, creates a situation where even basic survival becomes difficult. Informal workers are especially vulnerable because they often have no savings, contracts, or social protection to fall back on during crises. 6. Currency weakening and reduced purchasing power. Another hidden effect of conflict is currency instability. When investors lose confidence in affected regions, local currencies often weaken. This means imported goods become more expensive because more local currency is needed to buy foreign products. Countries that rely heavily on imports for food and fuel are particularly affected. Even if global prices remain stable, local consumers still experience rising costs due to exchange rate pressure. This reduced purchasing power makes everyday essentials like medicine, rice, and electricity increasingly unaffordable for average families, especially in developing economies. 7. Humanitarian strain and inequality. Widening conflict does not impact all populations equally. Wealthier households may be able to absorb price increases, but poorer families are pushed into crisis much faster. Humanitarian organizations report that hundreds of millions of people in fragile and conflict-affected regions are already experiencing acute hunger, with children being the most vulnerable group. As global food and fuel prices rise, aid organizations also face higher operational costs, reducing the amount of assistance they can deliver. This creates a widening inequality gap where the poorest communities suffer disproportionately, while wealthier regions remain relatively stable. 8. Conclusion. A chain reaction that hits everyday life. The struggle to afford basic necessities during conflict is the result of a chain reaction that connects global systems, energy markets, trade routes, food production, and financial stability. What begins as geopolitical tension quickly transforms into rising prices, job losses, and reduced purchasing power. For millions of people, this means choosing between food, medicine, and shelter. The economic consequences of conflict are therefore not distant or abstract. They are immediate, personal, and often devastating. Understanding this connection is essential to addressing global poverty and food insecurity, especially in a world where conflicts can influence prices far beyond their borders. If you liked this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up, leave a comment, and click the button to subscribe.